Welcome back, spooky souls, to a brand new episode of Let's Talk Spooky. I'm here in my office on this very snowy November day, and I just spent pretty much the majority of the last few days going through all of the listener stories that you sent me. And I'm going to tell you guys, are you okay? Because some of these stories were downright scary. Like, if I had to experience that, I'm not sure I would handle it as well as some of you did. But I am excited to share them with you. I'm excited for you guys to send me more, so please keep doing that. Even if it's not for listener episodes, just send me your scary stuff because I love to read it, and I love to read it to my husband, who absolutely hates scary stuff. So it's great to make him wish that he married somebody normal. But anyway, all right. If this is your first time listening, welcome. Here at Let's Talk Spooky, we dive into the creepy, paranormal, and haunting folklore from some of the seemingly most regular locations. We also discuss some scary themes and some dark history. So if that's your vibe, you are in the right place. Tonight's episode is going to be a little different, as I mentioned, because I'm going to be sharing the stories that you sent me. These aren't myths or legends or folklore. These are real experiences from you guys. So I don't know. There's nothing much else to say. Grab your cup of tea, grab something cozy to wrap yourself in, and light a candle, and let's talk spooky. Our first story comes from a listener named Samantha from Ontario, Canada. Hello to Samantha and all my fellow Canadians, because I love featuring Canadian stories because we are some spooky people. So this story is called I Just Want to Go Home. I have seen ghosts my whole life. From the time I was 2, I often freaked out my mother by telling her that the visitors had come for tea. At first, she would think I was just a lonely and imaginative little girl, creating companions to have tea parties with. That was until I described an old woman that was often at my tea parties. She used to live in the house and was okay with the changes my mom and dad were making to the home. Apparently, they bought the property from a man whose mother had lived in a little 2-bedroom house until she was the age of 70 and passed away. After that, my mom was a little bit more curious about the people that I could see and that she couldn't. This story is many years later, and my encounters with ghosts took often different forms depending on the situation. I got to the point where I could see someone strange that suddenly disappeared, and I would keep it to myself. When this happened, I couldn't keep it to myself, and I shared it with only those who were good with spooky stories. I had a pizza place that I worked at. It was a takeout restaurant in a small town just outside of Oshawa, and my job was to deliver pizzas to the local communities, which for the most part around that time were farmland areas in the surrounding village. These farms were on side roads, and a lot of the times there were very few streetlights and big gaps between the homes. And depending on the condition of your headlights, which if you had an old car, it could get hard to read numbers on mailboxes. So I generally stayed on roads, keeping an eye out, watching for cats and other animals, just to make sure that I drove slow and didn't miss any of the houses I was supposed to deliver at. One evening, it was close to the time around midnight, and it was around our last delivery of the night. I headed out for the delivery in a very rural area with only a few farms along the road. I dropped off the pizza and headed back to end my shift when I spotted something ahead of me. At first, I wasn't 100% sure what it was, but as I got closer, I realized it was a young girl. She was walking along the side of the road, and she was completely alone. We were several miles away from any town, so I felt compelled to stop and see if she wanted a ride. She was pale and confused and sad, and a little bit dirty for some reason. She got into the car and just stared ahead. I asked her what she was doing out here all by herself, and I was worried that I may need to take her to a hospital, but she said she was okay. She was just at a tailgate party with her friends, got tired of being there, and wanted to head home. Well, that kind of works out. I'll drive you home, I had said to her. I'm heading back to town, so if you live somewhere around here, I can take you to where you need to go. She said she lived in town and she wanted to go home again. This is what she kept repeating for a good portion of the drive. She didn't speak much, but when she did, she just wanted to go home. Once we were in town, she showed me where by pointing out to one of the homes, and I turned up into her driveway. She smiled slightly, got out of the car, and just stared at the house. Then she slowly headed up the driveway. I looked down to shift into reverse to back out of the driveway, and when I looked up, she was gone. I thought it was strange, but I thought maybe she snuck around back or a garage door access. So I didn't think much of it, and I went on my business back to my pizza place and home. But it was a few days later, when I was at the pizza place, that I looked down at a local paper that was delivered. It took a moment to look at the front page, but there was photos of 6 local high school students who tragically had passed away in a car crash up on one of the side roads near a gravel pit where they had been partying the night before. They had been drinking, and when they got into the car to head back to town, they lost control of the vehicle and crashed it through a fence, into a field, and into a tree, and it had not been discovered until the very next day. Heartbroken for the families, I scanned through the photos of the students until I landed on the face of the young woman, the very young woman that I had driven home. My heart stopped, my blood went cold, and I remember thinking how many times she said she just wanted to go home. Oh, I've got shivers. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know. I don't think I could drive home a ghost. And maybe I wouldn't know it was a ghost, like this listener didn't. But Samantha, if you are listening, wow. Definitely keep telling that story because it is a creepy one. And, you helped a girl out. And I think that's an amazing thing. Our second story was sent by a listener who wished to remain anonymous. So for the purpose of this, we're going to call her Ava. Ava sent a story that she called The Boy in the Living Room. It happened a few years ago, long after my family thought they'd gotten used to things around the house. Little flickers of movement, flashes at the corner of our eye, shapes that didn't belong, kind of like doppelganger sightings. You convince yourself it was just in your imagination, but sometimes it gets hard to convince yourself. Nothing prepared us, though, for the night that everything changed. It started with something completely normal. Our 2.5-year-old son climbing into bed sometime after midnight. He'd done it before, as most toddlers do. He got cozy in the comfort of the warm blankets, and as sleepy parents, we kind of just let it happen. After he settled in between us, couldn't help but struggle falling asleep. So I decided to head to my craft room, down the hall, and maybe finish a project or two. About 45 minutes had passed, and it was quiet, and I was comfortable and focused, until the baby monitor on my desk started flickering. It wasn't generally motion activated, so this seemed really strange. But now the screen strobed wildly, blinking in and out as if somebody was tapping on the power button over and over. I reached over and picked it up, and the moment my fingers curled around the plastic, a shrill, teeth-rattling feedback screeched through the speaker, so suddenly and violently that I actually dropped the monitor on the floor. And with that, the sound cut off instantly. The glow of the edges of the screen settled, there was no more flickering, and I looked closely. That's when I froze. because it was my son on the screen. Except for he wasn't in bed. He was just standing in the middle of the living room, perfectly still, facing the wall and just staring. My first instinct was to go get my husband and somehow yell at him because he'd missed our kid coming out of bed and going downstairs. But it was late and everybody was tired, so mistakes happen, right? Still, holding the monitor, I rushed out of the craft room, through the kitchen, and into the dining room. The living room was just around the corner, so he wouldn't have been able to move too quickly. When I stepped in, though, it was empty. There was no child, no movement, nothing in the room. The monitor was in my hand still, and it showed the living room camera feed as empty now. My heart began to hammer. I was so nervous. I couldn't understand what was happening. So I hurried across the room and into the bedroom and pushed it open. And there was my son, fast asleep, exactly where I had left him an hour earlier, tucked between the space where I was and my husband is. My husband glanced up from his e-reader, as he had woken up just seconds before, apparently, confused at the expression. She asked if he had gotten up to go to the bathroom or the kitchen or anything, but my husband said he hadn't moved. He hadn't even rolled over, and he was literally snoring. He insisted that their son hadn't gone anywhere. He had been beside him the entire time. But how? Shaking her head, she didn't correct him. She just didn't tell him what happened. I mean, it was probably her imagination and the sleep deprivation. The moment she glanced down at the monitor again, she saw the boy. This time, she was staring at her son in the bed and to this boy in the monitor. His head turned very slowly, almost mechanical-like, and then he stared directly into the nanny cam. No expression, no recognition, just emptiness. The doppelganger encounters in this house have always been fleeting. Flashes, quick moments, a face, maybe for half a second, nothing long enough to truly process what you were seeing. But this one, this thing, it stood there long enough to make eye contact with me. And now, years later, she says that blank, emotionless expression still stares at her in her mind at night. Wow. I have wanted to do an episode on mimics and on doppelgangers, and this has definitely inspired me. I read this the other night, and I have 2 children of my own. One of them is young, and it always freaks me out staring at baby monitors because I'm just waiting for something creepy to show up. So kudos to you, Ava. You are a trooper for not moving out of that house, because I would be gone, 100% gone. Our next story is from a listener named Beth, and she sent this to me back when I had done an episode on the Banff Springs Hotel. If you have not listened to that episode, I will have it linked in the description box below. But it was all about the hauntings of the Banff Springs. So when she heard that episode, she sent me her spooky story, and I had to feature it in today's episode because it is spooky. Hello. So back in June 1991, I got married. Congratulations. On June 29th, to be exact, my husband and I decided to celebrate by taking a trip out to the Banff Springs Hotel. It was a bit of a drive, but we didn't care. We were young, excited, and ready for an adventure. We drove through the night, and by morning we had arrived at the most incredible place I had ever seen. Wow, it is really beautiful, and everybody is right when they say it is. The scenery, the building, everything, it was just awe. The meals were pretty fantastic too. On our first day, we went swimming, and while I was in the pool, I felt something that I couldn't explain. It was something that tugged on my leg. I brushed it off, thinking maybe it was the current of the hot springs, no big deal. and went about my day. That night, as we got ready for bed, both my husband and I heard the toilet flush on its own. Okay, weird, but maybe it's on a kind of timer or something. These fancy hotels, they have all sorts of technology, so we didn't think too hard about it, and then we went to sleep. Day 2. We went sightseeing. We viewed gorgeous lakes and mountains, and everything was perfect. Around lunch, we stopped in the dining room. Today, they had been doing a combination of lunch and dinner, which was totally fine with us. But as we were eating, I noticed something strange across the room. A chair at the other table pulled out on its own, like moved, as if something that wasn't there was pulling it out. And then right after, the corner of the tablecloth flipped by itself. And that is when I lost it. I grabbed my food and I bolted to our room. Only problem, my husband had the key card. He was behind me telling me to calm down. There was absolutely nothing going on, but I was not calming down at this point. Something was going on in this place. That night, we were hosting an old-style ballroom dance. That night, the hotel was hosting an old-style ballroom dance. I had always dreamed of going to something like that, so we decided to get dressed up and make the most of it. We even rented costumes. I was in the shower getting ready when my husband realized he was missing his shoe, so he ran out to the car to grab it. A minute later, I heard the hotel door open. I shouted asking for a towel, and when he didn't answer, I stepped out, and that is when I saw it. My dress, the one I had hung up carefully, was now stuffed into the coat rack cubby, and no one was there. At this point, I generally thought I was losing my mind. But I had been looking forward to dancing for ages, so I told myself to get it together, enjoy this night, and we'll leave first thing in the morning. We actually did have a lot of fun at the dance. But that night, back in our room, my dress was moving again. The TV turned itself on, the toilet kept flushing, and I have to say that was it for me. I packed up my bags immediately, and that morning we left. And let me be very clear, I am never going back to that hotel. No way, absolutely not, never again. Wow, Beth, that is a creepy story. I've been to the Banff Springs Hotel. I have not stayed there, unfortunately, but that is going to happen in the next couple of years, I'm hoping. And when I was there, though, the energy of that place was just eerie. There's just so much residual energy and life and living energy that you can almost sense things around you that you can't see. So kudos to you for spending 2 nights there, and I would love to hear if anybody else has spent the night at the Banff Springs and if you had your own experiences. This next story is from Mila, who wrote, "I love your show. Listen to it while driving to work. Keep it spooky, girl." Aw, thank you. I love that you guys are listening on your way to work, keeping it creepy. It's great. So this story is called, Mila sent a couple of different stories, so I'm going to read all 3 of them. They don't have titles, but I'm going to kind of break them up. I'll let you know when each story kind of changes. So the first one is, my husband and I were at a conservation area one night when we got into the car around midnight after a walk. And we were just sitting there talking for a few minutes when I happened to glance in the side view mirror. And that's where I saw her. Standing there was a little girl in the taillight. I didn't say anything, but I guess my body language had changed. All of a sudden, my husband got really uncomfortable, and he said it was time to leave. He eventually told me later that he had also seen the little girl, and I'm pretty sure that was the first experience he had ever had. Our second story from Mila is, I used to live in an old building on a main street of town. I lived in the upstairs apartment, and I worked in the school that was on the main floor. And one night, I got curious, and I went down to the unfinished basement. When I looked around, it was full of stuff, but I found a tiny door at the back of the laundry room. And of course, I pried it open. I went into it, and I had to crawl through the door, but once I was able to get to the other side, you could stand up in this small space. It was full of old church paraphernalia and tons of broken glass. And under what looked like a window insert was a guy laying there who looked real and fleshy and dead. Holy crap. There was not, in fact, anybody there. It was just an image, for a side note. I took a crate full of old church slides that were printed on glass, and I still have it. That is creepy. Mila, I don't know, I'm trying to understand what you saw, but I feel like maybe it was like an image of somebody's death, or if it was real, it was a wax figure. I don't know. Creepy. Absolutely creepy. Okay, your last story is when I lived at my parents' house. If you sat in the family room, you could see the top floor. There was a bit of a catwalk balcony that went across. I used to sit on the couch and watch TV, and I could see mostly shadow men walk back and forth through the bedrooms, across the catwalk in the front bedroom. Though I couldn't make out details, I knew he was in a trench coat, and I knew he had a top hat. He was very tall and very thin. I never said anything to anybody, but I would see this guy for months. Our last listener story is called The Woman in the Attic, and it was sent by a listener who wished to remain anonymous, so we are going to call her Heather for the purpose of this. But it goes, my ex's family owned one of the most enormous old farmhouses I had ever seen. The kind that was built before electricity, before indoor plumbing, before people stopped believing in the spirits that wandered freely at night. It had been in their family since the late 1800s, passed down from sibling to sibling, including to a woman who they referred to as Miss Margaret. According to family lore, she spent her final days hiding in the attic. Even now, footsteps still pace the floorboards up and down at midnight if you listen close enough. They go back and forth, back and forth. It's like she's still up there, just staying with the house. Everyone says Miss Margaret was a bit strange. She liked to collect things, not necessarily hoard things, but she just liked to keep. She kept rings, earrings, small trinkets she would find, especially her mother-in-law's jewelry. If something went missing, you'd most likely find it tucked away somewhere strange because Miss Margaret decided she wanted to keep it. It was either in a drawer or tucked away in a small part of the house. But in the later years, after she'd long passed, strange things would start to happen. Things would go missing, and they'd be found in drawers that no one used, beneath chair cushions, sometimes in the windowsill that lined the top of the stairs, places that weren't easily accessible. There were always joked that Miss Margaret liked something, she would just borrow it and put it somewhere else. But the problem is, she never put it in the same place twice, and she would take things multiple times. The house had its own dark history. There was a long room in the maid hallway that they used to use as a music room. It was very sunny and bright, and family elders would whisper that once there had been a local funeral viewing in the room, and that since then, it seems that the occupant of the funeral never truly left. It wasn't just the history, too, that made the place creepy. It was the strange things that would happen. One afternoon when I came over, I found my cat perched on an ottoman, needing the air. But It was only with his front paws. His body was angled as though someone was holding him and supporting him by his chest, like when you would kind of pick up a cat, but not quite lift them off where they're standing. But nobody was there. I reached out and swept him up beneath him using my hands, but as I moved through the space, I felt the pressure of cold pass through me. It was almost as if something else was holding him, and I kind of grabbed him out of their hands. My ex would experience things too. He wasn't somebody who scared easily, so for the most part, I kind of believed him. He was an electrician and a farmer, the kind of man who'd seen real-life danger and shrugged at silly ghost stories. But one night, he woke up to a woman in white standing right beside his bed. She was leaning over him and watching him sleep. He swore her face was pale, almost translucent. She didn't move or speak. She just stared at him. But when he blinked, she was gone. Miss Margaret's old room was probably the coldest place in the entire house. There's no air conditioning. I mean, like I said, it's a very old farmhouse. And when you go up there, it could be 100 degrees outside, and this room is absolutely freezing. The first night I slept in there, I borrowed 7 quilts just to stop shivering, and it was July. I shut the door tightly and I went to bed after a number of attempts to sleep and hearing noises. And that night I ended up hearing the hinges of the door squeak so loudly that I decided I was no longer staying in there and I was just going to go sleep on the couch. The next night I tried again. This time, as I was falling asleep, something in the middle of the night put their hands on me. They were gentle, soothing the blanket kind of along my sides, almost like it was tucking me in. The way you would tuck in a child. The way a caretaker might. I remember freezing. I didn't open my eyes at first because I was absolutely terrified of what I might see. When I finally was forced to look, there was nothing there. But the door was wide open. This time though, unlike the night before when I heard the hinges, I didn't hear anything. Later years after my ex remarried, he and his new wife say that they always still see things. And his little girl always sees a man in overalls. He's standing at the top of the stairs. Nobody else sees him, but she's 10 now, and she still sees him. Wow. I have to say that old homes, especially farmhouses, they absolutely terrify me. I love them. Like, in a terrifying way to the point where I want to see something. That's where I'm at in my horror world, is that I'm not ever really truly terrified because I'm a spooky girl, and let's be honest, it takes a lot. But I want to see things because it's so rich in history that you get the vibe that there just needs to be energy here and you want to witness it. At least I do. So I always take opportunities to insert myself in old homes if I know somebody or can have a chance to look at an open house or something, because I'm weird like that. In hopes to see some creepy energy. Hey guys, I'm just jumping back in here because I was doing my edit and I wanted to insert this story because it happened to me last night and I thought it would be perfect to share it with you guys during this spooky listener story episode. So this happened to me. It just happened. It's very fresh and it freaked me out. So I needed to share it with you guys. Last night I was driving home. So I teach at a university and I was driving home from my last class, which ended about 4:30 p.m. And where this university is located, it's kind of tucked away around a forested area. So you have to go down a dirt road that's surrounded by forest to get to where the university is. So on the way home, it's getting to be dusk. I'm driving, and all of a sudden, it felt like something stepped out of the woods. And it looked like a man in a plaid jacket, and it was so fast, but so real looking that I slammed on the brakes. Nobody was behind me, thank goodness, but I stopped and I panicked. And even if you have one of those trucks like I do that has the motioning on the side of the mirrors where it kind of shows you a car is coming, that turned on. It was yellow and it was showing me that there was an object beside me. And I slammed on the brakes and I stopped and I looked around. I looked at the rear view mirror. I looked on the side mirrors. I looked everywhere. And it wasn't dark enough that I couldn't see anybody around me. It was empty. There was not a single person, animal, anything. And the forest was not dense enough in that area that somebody could have taken off and like hidden in the wooded area. But it freaked me out so much. I had to stop. I had to sit on the side of the road for a second and collect myself before I was able to continue driving. And I told this story to one of my friends, and she suggested it was likely a spirit walking out of the woods. And because, it was that dusk time, that maybe it wasn't clear enough for me, but I don't know. The motion sensor on my truck caught it. It freaked me out, and I just wanted to share that story with you guys so you can tell me your thoughts, what you think it was. Maybe if it was a spirit, if it was like a, glitch in the matrix or something. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you. So thank you guys for listening. Well, thank you guys for submitting your stories and for reaching out and sharing some of the creepiest things that have ever happened to you. I loved hearing them. We loved reading through them. I didn't get to include all of them, unfortunately, but we're going to do another listener episode soon, I hope. And if you have a story and maybe you didn't get a chance to share it, please do. You can DM me in our socials on TikTok at Let's Talk Spooky, or you can email me at letstalkspookypodcast@gmail.com. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. Stay spooky. This episode was written and produced by me, Shauna, and the team here at Let's Talk Spooky. If you have a spooky, scary story that you want to share or an episode recommendation, please give us a shout through our socials or through email. All of the locations, content, and story writing information can be found in the show notes below.